Hello, everyone, and welcome to Fearlessly Authentic. I'm your host, Jody Harrison Bauer, and I am so happy to have you here join me today. If you are a first-time listener, welcome to the show. This is the place where we educate you, empower you with that information, maybe entertain you a little bit, and inspire you to live your most fearlessly authentic life. Because, in my humble opinion, what are we doing here if we're not being our most fearlessly authentic? Even though it's very hard to do, but it's something we could work on every day. So if you are new or you haven't done this yet, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. When you subscribe, we get more people to listen and we could make the show bigger, bigger, and bigger. So please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. You can find me at Jody Harrison Bauer on all streaming podcast platforms, social media, not on podcast platforms. I say that all the time and I screw that up. You're going to find this podcast, Fearlessly Authentic, on all streaming podcast platforms. You can find me on all social media platforms at Jody Harrison Bauer. Okay, we got that. And today's guest, I think she's becoming like our dating person here. She is a dating expert, and I think that's what we need to make you, Bella, is just friend of the show, dating expert, like you are on Good Morning America, right?
Yay! I would be so honored.
I know. I think we need to do this like every quarter and talk about dating and trends and how things have changed. But before we start, I want to introduce you to our audience. Bela Gandhi is a dating relationship expert, founder of Smart Dating Academy, and has been featured on most national local media outlets, including Good Morning America, Steve Harvey, The Today Show, Kelly Clarkson, Access, ABC, NBC, Fox, and more. And Bella and I have decided that she is your personal trainer for your love life. So if you need that, Bella is the one you need to get in touch with, founder of Smart Dating Academy. Here we go, Bella. It's spring. What is going on?
Dating is amazing. You guys feel it outside. Love is in the air. The birds, the bees, the flowers are blooming, and it just feels like life is coming back to life. And
Mm.
if you've been hibernating for the holidays, now is your time to kind of break out of your shell and start to think about, am I ready to dip my toe back into the dating pool and maybe find the lid to my pot?
Right, right. I think that so many of us, I'm not dating, I'm married, but I remember when I was dating that it can be very overwhelming. You go through all of these different emotions of, I feel really good about myself. I'm going to put myself out there, to, I'm not finding the right person. Maybe I should give up. Maybe I should give myself a break. And how do you help navigate your clients through the online dating process? Like, how do you coach them?
So the first thing we do is even before we get them online, Jody, we have a whole process. They fill out a lot of background questionnaires, which you might have a therapist and talk through this, or maybe chat with your friends like, oh, my family of origin was like this, my mom was like this, my ex was like this. But when you write things down
Mm,
in in a framework,
right.
it produces ahas and different transformations than when you just talk about it. And we have you looking for patterns in certain ways. So the first thing we do is we help people to look for what we call their high GPQ person, high and good partner qualities. Okay,
Oh,
so you know who this person is. And it's a very different checklist than anybody walks in with. And then we teach every person about red flags that occur from the time you read somebody's profile all the way up to 6 to 12 months post exclusivity in a relationship. So we arm people with this amazing, it's inspiration and education and helping them to see what their patterns might be and then how to fix their picker. Then we put people online. We do their photos. I wrote a profile workbook that helps people. It helps make it super easy and makes you really the best version of yourself. Then we put people on, and here's where I want you to know, we're not putting people on 6, 7, 8 apps, ladies and gentlemen. We start with one app, and we don't get married to anyone. We give it a 30-day try.
mm,
And then the most I'll ever have a client on is 2 sites or apps concurrently, because if you're on 3, 5, 7 of them, you'll feel like you're going crazy, you're overwhelmed, like you have dating ADHD. Just
Right.
keep it slimmed down to 1 or 2, and only date online for 15 minutes in the morning and 15 minutes in the evening. I don't want this to feel like your
Good
full-time
job.
job. This is like a workout. You want to do something every day. Some days you're going to be able to get to the gym, but on the days you can't get to the gym, at least park in a faraway spot and walk further to the building and maybe take the stairs up. 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes in the evening. That's all you need to do when you've got all this prep work done to start to get the pedals of the bike moving.
Because they know what to look for, or you've suggested what they should look for in your workbook, what's a red flag to look for, right?
Well, we're in there, and where we say personal trainers, we're coaching our clients 3 times a month in session. We're logged into your inbox. So we're like, oh, this dude's got 3 red flags. Why did he say this to you? I don't like this. This one looks too sexual. Ew, let's get rid of this one. So we're in the weeds
You
with you once you're
are.
launched. Oh, yeah. That's how. So we teach people about the red flags just so you know how we're going to coach you. But then we're like your guardian angels, literally with you, like a personal trainer is in the gym. Anybody can run on a treadmill, but when you really want to get different results, you hire a
Totally.
trainer who does an assessment, right? Who understands your body, your goals, and then creates something specific for you. That's what we do in the dating world.
It's a transformation.
Yeah.
Somebody is looking to meet somebody to help transform their life. Not that that person's going to transform it, the person they're looking for, but overall, it's a transformation. They want to find love. They want to fall in love. They may want to get married, have children. So, right, like a personal trainer, you're in the trenches with them, you're guiding them, you're giving them the things they need to be doing, looking for. And I I would feel very safe if I had to do that, like knowing that my coach was right there in the weeds with me, looking at things. Now, will you look at potential people they should date and suggest that to them?
Oh, yeah. It's
Wow,
funny. So one of my
that's
coaches,
fun.
Lindsay, we have a female client who Lindsay was in her inbox with her and on an app, and she saw one of our male clients come up. And she was like, oh my gosh, swipe right on him. He is amazing. You guys will be great. So we now have both sides of this equation. So he's a great guy. She's great as well. So it's awesome. So, yes, we're in the weeds with people.
I would think that this is could start happening more often because you have so many clients that they could start meeting each other online. That would be crazy.
It was crazy when she told me. She's like, "Oh my gosh, get this. I was online with, we'll call her Julie, and
Hmm.
guess who popped up? Mark." I'm like, "That's amazing." And so I'm texting them both. She's great. He's great. And they both know that they're working with us, which automatically elevates it for them. It's like, oh, a guy that signed up for date coaching, amazing. A woman that signed up for this program, amazing.
Right. That means they really care. They,
Yeah.
so when I see people that have given up, who are a little cynical about it, they're in their over 50. I want to specifically talk today about people over 50
Okay.
looking for love. And you were just on Good Morning America this morning talking about that. And I think that I read somewhere about divorces and that I think it was on the show, right? 53% of people are getting divorced, 35 are looking for love. Did I get that right?
Something it's close to that. So
Hmm.
the stats say 40 to 50% of first marriages end in divorce. For second marriages, 67% of those end in divorce. So when we try it again with no intervention, doesn't always work out well.
Mm.
So on GMA this morning, they said that 30% of adults over the age of 50 are single. And of those, 57% are looking to find love. So if you're out there, if you're listening to this going, wait a second, Jody, wait a second, Bella, like I feel like I'm the only single person I know because everybody's married, everybody's coupled up. Completely false. 1 out of 3 adults over the age of 50 are single. That's a really big pool. And there's over 35 million single adults, or there's 35 million single adults in this country that are over 50. It's crazy. The pool's big. Get
Is it?
excited,
The pool's huge.
right?
I don't know how big the pool was when I got divorced in 2002, but I will tell you that the only thing available was really Match.com.
Yeah.
It was, and everybody, I would see the same guys on Match.com, but then I went to JDate, which was a Jewish dating online service. So I thought, well, let me try the Jewish guys. And, but I would see the same guys. And then I went off of it, came back on, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm still single, and these guys are still single too. This is pathetic. I'm getting off. But that was a long time ago. I know it's changed so much. I didn't tell anybody I was doing online dating back in 2002. I would be embarrassed. But now it's just people, that's how people meet.
Yeah, yeah. And even if, not that you're going to be on an app, but if you're listening to this and you do see someone that you saw 3 years ago on an app, remember, our brains do what's called anchoring and we look for the familiar. So out of 100 people, if you see maybe one or maybe two people that you've seen before out of 100, our brains are like, oh my God, everyone's the same. But if you actually look at the numbers, 98 are new. Two might be on there, but you never know. Maybe they both had relationships for 2 years with women that knocked them around and they had to get back on the apps again. So, number one, assume positive intent about somebody and know that your brain is anchoring on points that it already knows. And so don't be fooled into everybody's the same. I go through it with my clients. They're like, oh my gosh, that guy was on there 10 years ago. I'm like, now
Right.
let's look at the next 99. They're
Right.
like, no, 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 Bella, it's fine. I got you. I understand your point.
How did you learn how to understand and read people and discover what men and women were looking for? What made you become an expert?
When from the time that you're a kid, you're drawn to something.
Mhm.
This is what I was drawn to: romance. I was drawn to personal growth since I was a kid. I mean, now they call it personal growth, but it was called self-help back in the day. And I would literally just beeline to the self-help section and was a voracious learner and reader about human beings and what makes us tick. How are men different than women and vice versa? And how do we become the best versions of ourselves, right? I have a growth mindset, which means, if you say, well, I'm an introvert, you know what? That's a label you're giving yourself. You can become more sociable and become more comfortable socially. You might still need to plug in when you go home, but I think that there are very few pure extroverts or pure introverts. We're all kind of a hybrid. So don't give yourself a label and put yourself in a quadrant, because I promise if your mindset says, I can become a better small talk person, I can become a better dater, I can pick better people, you can.
Yes. And the more you do it, the better you're going to become. In an episode I taped a couple of weeks ago, I talked about how I used to be shy. And there are still parts of me that are shy. And when I was going to an event with my daughter, and she kept saying to me, Mom, you're being so weird. I go, what do you mean I'm being weird? She goes, you're just being weird. Like you're not being yourself. I go, well, sometimes I'm a little shy. She goes, Mom, please. And I said, no, you don't know this about me. Like, I know you've been my daughter for 31 years, but you may not have ever seen this about me. And I had to go to another event, but by myself. And I texted her and I said, I'm nervous. I'm on my way. I'm in the Uber, but I'm nervous. She's like, oh, who are you? And so, but we do. And what you said, we are a hybrid. So I don't label myself shy. So anybody listening right now, if you feel shy, go out there and get more sociable, because when you do start dating, you will have developed some skills and confidence to go on those dates. But it takes practice, like everything, right?
Totally. It takes practice and this educational and growth oriented mindset, right? We help our clients to be able to answer questions. How do you become a better conversationalist, right?
Right.
And so much of it is through good listening, right? A really good conversationalist really listen to what people are saying. And that's how they're like journalists. And that's where good conversations come from. And so conversational skills can be taught. You're not stuck with what you've got. You can always become better if you want.
I love that. That's for everybody who thinks that they can't go on a date because they don't have anything to say or they do feel shy. Because I think so many of us do feel like, well, I don't have anything to talk about. So, or you get into that date where it feels like an interview, right?
Yeah.
Where or the person never you're asking all the questions. That person's never asking you any questions. Is that a red flag?
I would say for the first date, it's a yellow flag because they might just be nervous and
Mhm.
they don't know. And maybe they're brand new to dating and they don't know. And when you're asking all the questions, they're so at ease because they're like, oh, okay. And they're just answering questions. But as the dates go on, if that person continues to hog the spotlight, it's definitely a red flag.
Yeah, I would think so too. I remember walking away from dates, he didn't ask me one thing about myself, and it makes you feel not seen, not heard.
It's so annoying. It's one of the biggest red flags that usually I would say women complain about it a lot with men, but I'll tell you what, as a dating coach, I've seen just as many women do the same thing where they can monopolize a conversation and not be really interested in others. So I don't think it's really gender specific. If you've heard your own voice for more than 3 minutes, it's time to give the other person a turn.
Oh, I love that. 3 minutes.
Yeah. And you might not know, but be aware. And,
Yes.
maybe glance at your watch if you think you're this person that talks and talks and talks. And if you're called the chatterbox or, oh, wow, you're really the life of the party, you're a great storyteller. People might be saying, like, you really like the spotlight or you like to talk. So just, yeah, practice bouncing the ball back to somebody else. A great conversation is like a tennis match. You hit the ball, they hit the ball. You hit the ball, they hit the ball.
Right. So let's just say you're on a dating app. What is your client finds somebody they're attracted to, has they're initially attracted, then they look at all the other things and go, okay, I want to reach out to that person. How do you suggest the best way for somebody to reach out to somebody on a dating app?
Find something that you connect with,
Okay.
that they wrote, something that you have in common, something that intrigues you, and ask about that. This doesn't have to be Shakespearean sonnet.
Mhm.
Just send. It's like what you would say to somebody at a cocktail party if you thought they were interesting, right? Walk up to someone, it's like, oh my God, those shoes are amazing. I want those. Right. And that's all you have to say. Just notice something, be curious, give a compliment, ask a question. That's it. It's the same thing with online dating. Don't just say hi or hey with 11 Y's. It's not going to get you a response.
And what do you do with the client that is not curious?
We make them curious, right?
Okay, because
I
I know
also
because
select,
I know that exists. I know I've met people who are not curious. And like, what do you do with them in this situation where they want to meet somebody?
right? I mean, we see clients sometimes that are not willing to sort of break out of their own rubric about what they think is right. And that's usually the hardest thing for us. I always say love is going to come to you in an unexpected package. Get beyond the resume, look at
Mhm.
the heart, and attraction can develop.
Everybody always says love will come to you when you least expect it. And when I met my second husband, uh, he came to me in a very unexpected way. I was actually in a relationship with somebody else
Oh, that is
and
unexpected.
looking to get out of that relationship, but wasn't looking to get into a new relationship. But he just appeared. It wasn't love at first sight at all. It was he's totally not my type. But it was just funny how he popped up, and it's frustrating to say it to somebody, just don't worry, it'll happen when it's supposed to happen. But I do believe that we need to drive drive the car a little bit towards it, right? We can't just passively sit back and, okay, well, Bella told me it will happen when I least expect it. And my mom said, don't worry, honey, it's going to happen for you, but you have to put in the effort.
Yes, it's like, imagine if there's a taxi in New York City. If the cab light doesn't say it's open, you're
Right.
not going to try to hail the cab. So you
Very
have
good.
to have your personal cab light on. Remember, when people say it's going to happen to you when you least expect it, you have to, number one, believe that it's out there for you. Because if
Right.
you're telling yourself all day long, there's no good people out there. Everybody's horrible. Everybody's a cheater. I'm too unhealthy. I'm too fat. I'm too old. Whatever the mind monkeys are that bounce around in our own brains, wreaking havoc. If these are the messages you're telling yourself, how can you see someone that's coming your way? Sometimes I tell my clients, if a good person was coming your way, you wouldn't even know it.
Because
They
they
could
have a
look you in the
scarcity,
face.
right? Because they have a
Exactly.
scarcity mindset versus the growth mindset that you were talking about.
Exactly. It's like, I've got too much baggage. I don't know. I have a bad picker. It's like, hold on a second. When you don't believe that love exists for you and that you're worthy of love, do you think you're going to look up and make eye contact with people? Do you think your cab light is on? No, it's off. You're looking down. You're reading your phone while you're walking. You're not engaging in the
Right.
world.
You're right.
Mr. or Miss Right is going to pass you by. I tried. I love one of the things I love to do is it makes me feel good to make others feel good. So I've trained my mind to look for what's good and then be able to say it right in that moment. Like, oh my God, Jody, your hair is amazing. I love your studio. I was walking past this girl in Chicago. We're walking towards each other and her dress was so cute. I literally wanted to like grab it and take it off of her. Not like that, but it was
No,
so
I know.
adorable. And I said to her, oh my God, you look gorgeous in that dress. And you know what? She had on AirPods and just walked right past me. I was like, what a total downer. Take out your AirPods, connect,
I know.
look around. You never know. I could have been the love of her life. And she missed me because her damn AirPods were on.
So let's go back to the age. Okay. So if we're looking at, so I feel that when whoever that girl was probably under the age of 50. I don't know.
You know,
They're,
today it's hard to tell
it
because
is hard.
who would think you were the age you were,
Oh,
right? If I see
stop.
you walking down the street, I'm like, there's a 33-year-old.
You're embarrassing me. No, especially today.
Oh my
Wow.
God, are you kidding?
Anyway, um, so do you find that the people that you coach over 50 have different insecurities or needs or looking for something different? I heard you say on the show today on Good Morning America that the cool thing about being over 50 is that you know who you are more than you did when you were in your 20s and 30s. And I think that's very cool. And women and men need to embrace that. And I feel like especially women, and maybe it's because I'm a woman, but I feel that women are more insecure about the aging process than men are. That's a very broad statement, but knowing the women that I know, I don't ever hear men complain about, oh, my hair's going gray, or oh, I'm losing my hair, or oh, I've gained a few pounds. You don't hear guys talking like that. So that's why I think it's more women.
Well, society has normalized that
Right.
men get more handsome as they get older. I'm like,
Eh.
not really.
Right.
Right. Like, I mean, and so I think that this is just part of the patriarchy and women don't fall into this, right? You look
Right.
gorgeous. There's so many beautiful women at all ages, but especially about 50. I have so
I agree.
many amazing singles over 50, and you would never guess what their ages were. So yeah, I don't, if you're a woman, we're taught from the time we were little girls that we need to be pretty, right? And
Mhm.
those messages are rough and tumble. And that doesn't go away whether we're 30, 40, 50, or 70 years old. But you are beautiful today, exactly as you are. And look for all of the things that you love about yourself and get back out there, right? And we see these guys, dad bods are cool. Who would ever say a mom bod is cool, right? I'm like, these
You're
messages,
so right. You
who's
make me
putting this
laugh.
out there? Like, this
I
is
don't
why are we buying into all of this
I don't
BS?
know. Like the dad bod. I agree. I agree with
Who
you.
talks about the mom bod? Why don't you start talking about the mom bod, right? And
Right,
it's
right.
like,
And make it sexy.
make it sexy again, right? The dad bod. So distinguished, silver fox. What about a silver foxette,
Right. All right.
right?
This leads me to the big news that came out on Friday of the Golden Bachelor and his fiancee Teresa. Are filing for divorce. They are going their separate ways. Did you watch them on, I think it was Good Morning America? We're giving Good Morning America a lot of plugs here. Um, do you feel, how do you feel about the whole thing? The divorce? What do you think went wrong? Body language? Tell me.
So, what I can tell you is I actually did a GMA segment coming straight out of their wedding. So, back in January. So,
Oh,
I was there in New York on set talking about dating over 50. Today, they're doing a whole week this week, older and bolder. So, they opened up with dating over 50 today. So, I think that relationships need time. And the Bachelor franchise, obviously, it's quick decisions, it's physical chemistry, it's a little bit of getting to know each other. But for me, there's so many things that if I wrote The Bachelor, I would correct to actually help them form real and lasting relationships. And let's put it this way, the show would probably go on for a minimum of 12 to 18 months for a season because you cannot make these kinds of decisions that fast. There is no love in 90 days. Maybe there's a one-off here and there. Look, my parents met on a Sunday. They got engaged on Thursday that week and got married on Sunday. Bananas. They've been
and they're
married
still
over 50
married?
years. Yes. And
What do
so
you think? Wait. What do you think why do you think this has worked for them? Do you think it was just chemistry, right?
I think that they found each other attractive, but my parents are immigrants from India. And in our culture, it's commitment first, then you fall in love.
Mm.
And so the families knew each other. They, yep, educated. She's a chemical engineer. He's a chemical engineer. Dot, 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 dot. And all of those things matched up. And so they basically spent a couple of dates. And then my mom's like, okay, I had never dated anybody else in my life. I was 20 years old and I married this man. I was like,
Oh,
oh my God. And now their daughter is a dating coach, telling people to do exactly the opposite. So the
right.
irony there is not lost on any of
Yeah.
us, but it's really, there is no advantage to going fast in the dating world. Why is that? You don't just know. What you know is chemistry. But let me tell you, ladies
Right.
and gentlemen, chemistry is nature's way of tricking us into attachment. Write that one
Hmm.
down. Okay.
Say that again. I love that.
Chemistry is nature's way of tricking us into attachment. What happens when we have
Mic
chemistry?
drop. Wow,
Mic drop,
I love that.
right? And now, is this person an attachable person? Do
Mm.
their values align with yours? These two, you know, Teresa and Gary, right? They lived out of state. They barely knew each other, right? And their families were important to them. And now the story is, well, I didn't want to move here. She didn't want to move there. Whatever it is, to me, there's more to this than meets the eye. Number one,
I
uh,
agree.
but it's too fast. In Smart Dating Academy, nobody is even getting exclusive using the word boyfriend or girlfriend or partner in less than 15 dates.
Oh,
15 dates over 3 months. That's when you can say you have a boyfriend, not a husband.
okay. So when they're out with friends, right? They're going to introduce. So they say this is Gary. They just don't give it a title. This is Gary.
Or you don't bring him out when you're at Smart Dating. You keep your dating life
Oh,
in silence
I
with me
love
and my
that.
team. And one day
Yes.
you're going to be like, I'm going to show you this cup is sitting here. Let's say this is your Gary. One day you're going to be like, you guys, I have a surprise for you. This is my boyfriend,
Right.
Gary. And everyone will say, wait, what? You're who? And he's been vetted by you. I'm really hard to earn. He's earned me. You're in good shape to then introduce him to your family and friends. Family and friends are incredibly well intentioned. They want the best for you, but they don't know what's best for you. I do.
No, and I used to try to please everybody around me with the people that I dated. And if my mom or dad or friends didn't like the person, I'd say, okay, I won't date that person anymore. Or after my divorce, if my daughters didn't like him, I didn't bring people around really early, but you know, it's I think that is a great idea. And they call that a hard launch, right? If you're going to go on and say this is Gary, that
My
you're,
boyfriend.
yep, my boyfriend. I love that.
Right.
So with Teresa and Gary, or like even people over a certain age, let's say, it's hard to compare 50 and 70. There's a huge difference in a 50-year-old and a 70-year-old. But I think that they should try to keep the bachelor, the golden bachelor, and the golden bachelorette in the same area. So say it's the Midwest. So say they do it at a big city like Chicago, and then they grab people from Wisconsin, Minnesota, yeah, Minnesota. I'm trying to think of all the states around
Indiana.
Indiana, right? So you grab all the people in that area. So if somebody is from Chicago and meets somebody from Indiana, that they're closer than Indiana and New Jersey, for example. You know, I think they were in love, but I do think the location played a huge part. But I also think that if they were madly in love and truly committed to each other, that being near their children, but being together would have been more important than being near their adult children. These are not people who have children in school.
Right. And you can negotiate all of those things when it's right. You can spend a month here, you can go there, right? You're both in retirement. And so, but you move things slowly. You
Mhm.
don't agree to uproot yourself right away, right? It's like if you were thinking of where do I want to retire? Some days I think, I don't know, I'm far away from retirement, but maybe I'd want to move to Miami or I don't know. Maybe the desert might be fun. What does New Mexico look like? I'm not going to sell my house in Chicago and just purchase a new plot of land sight unseen. Me, I'm going to go date the spot. I might get an Airbnb or a VRBO for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, and really immerse myself in that place before I agree to buy a piece of property. And that's way less collateral damage than agreeing to marry somebody.
I know. So I think they got married so they can take the money. Why do you think they got married?
Oh, yeah, the fame and the money,
Right.
incredibly intoxicating and seductive,
I think they got married because if they waited too long, I think they wouldn't have wanted to marry each other. And
right?
I
And now,
think they saw the money. They're like, let's take it and run and then see how it goes. But I wish them the best. And so what kind of advice would you give somebody over 50, over 60, over 70? Um, do you advise them differently? Because everybody's situation is different. Okay, tell me what you tell them.
no, everybody's situation, and you raised the right point at the end of your sentence. Everybody's situation is different. It's not the decade that you're in that's different, right?
Mm,
You're going to search for different people that are age appropriate for you, whatever that is. But other than that, love is love. Whether you're straight, 30, gay, 70, black, white, love is love.
right. And I was listening to something the other day about how not having the right love in your life or not being in a loving relationship, and I think you and I already know this, how it affects you physically and mentally. So finding that right person for you actually affects your well-being because when people are in love, um, they feel better about everything that they do.
You've got oxytocin floating through you. If you're in a situation that's the opposite, you're stressed out, you're under duress, you're full of cortisol, you're
Mm,
full of adrenaline, right? These are hormones that will long term lead to health deteriorations, right? You're with somebody you fight with all the time, your blood pressure is going to go up, right? If you think about it, you don't sleep as well. There's so many deleterious effects to being with someone that is not good for you. So, what I want to tell you is maybe you're single and listening to this. I hope we're inspiring you. Or maybe you're in a relationship and you're listening to this going, oh my God, I'm living in fight or flight. I've settled for this behavior for so long. I don't want to be here for the next 30 to 40 or maybe 50 years of my life. It's okay to think about these things because you have one precious life to live.
I agree. I agree. And that person probably knows what a healthy relationship feels like and what unhealthy feels like. And that's a red flag. So notice those red flags. And having a coach like you would be so helpful to so many people who are just sort of navigating all over the place. As you said at the beginning, people that are on a lot of dating sites versus maybe choosing two, you said two or
Yeah.
three,
Try one or two.
one or two. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
have, which ones do you like the best?
I've got my singles over 50, if you want to stay focus on that for a
Hmm.
second. They've met on all different sites. On Match, eHarmony, on Tinder, on Bumble, on Hinge, on
Hinge. Oh,
Facebook
wow.
dating, on Our Time, all over the place. So
Wow.
that's why I say have a strategy that you can change things up. Try an app for a month. See how
Mm,
it goes. If it's not producing results for you, change it up. There's so many out there to try. And don't listen to what everybody says about apps. Listen, I'll tell you, Tinder gets a bad rap for being a hookup app.
right.
It's the largest app globally. Okay.
Really?
Yes. And because the denominator is so big through brute force, it's responsible for more engagements and more weddings than any other site. So, listen, I'm not saying everybody, most people are not right for you. Maybe 1 in 100 are going to be right for you. So, you have to look at the apps with that mindset. Nobody's teeing you up the minute you get your pretty self online that
Mm.
this is the VIP section and
Right.
100 great people for you. No, no, you got to weed through this. This is like
It's work.
walking into the world's largest convention hall, right?
Right.
There's going to be people that you're like, whoa, okay, those are not my people. And you're going to sift through and you're going to walk around, and it's going to take you a while to meet your first friend, even
Mm.
in a room that you walk into by yourself.
Great advice. How do you feel about the age gap? What do you think is a healthy age gap? Do you not care? What's your feeling about age gap? Because it seems like it's the cool thing now. It's trending, right?
Yeah, I think age is just a number, as you have
Hmm.
demonstrated with the way
Yes.
you look and the gorgeous person you are. I don't really care for numbers as much as I care about where you are experientially in your life, right? Can you, at your age, could you interest a 40 or a 45-year-old? Absolutely. Look at you, right, Jody? Not that you're out there. I'm just saying someone that looked like.
Right. Thank you.
But at the end of the day, how much are you going to have in common with a 40 or a 45-year-old besides lust and chemistry? But long term, what if this person decides they want to get married and have kids, right? Where does that leave you,
Mm.
right? Or you won't even be able to talk about the same music, the same shows, right? It's like it's different generations. So I think dating has enough obstacles as it is that a really big age gap can be another one of those obstacles just from an experiential standpoint. But that being said, I know people that, I have neighbors that are 19 years apart and they're doing fine, right? I have clients that have come to me in their 60s because they married somebody that were 19 years older than them. And now they're in their
Oh.
60s, but their spouse passed when they were in their late 80s or 90s. And it
Mm.
was the love of their life. So I'm open.
Do you believe that we could only have one love of our life?
No,
I don't either.
no, I believe there's so many different. That's why I say lid to your pot. I'm
Mhm.
careful with that phrase because a pot is complete on its own.
Mm.
Right? And now through your life, you can have a red lid, you can have a tempered glass lid, you could have a stainless steel lid, you could have a dented cast iron lid, but there's all these lids that can fit your pot, but your pot is complete on its own.
Mm. I want everybody to understand that you are complete on your own. You don't need anybody to complete you. And I think, you know, when you're younger and you're not very self-aware, and that it doesn't even have to do with younger, because there are people my age that aren't self-aware. But that goes back again to the growth mindset that you and I both share, that if you are open and you've experienced a lot of life, whether you're 30 or 60, you two might be a great match because your life experience could be similar. It could be, you meet these people who are in their 30s and they're like very mature for their age because maybe they went through something that made them grow up faster. But I do think that age shouldn't be a factor ever. But I feel like, are there other things that become big factors when you're dating
When you're dating at any age,
at any
basically.
age? At any age.
Yeah, I think there's a big factor that we haven't talked about yet, and that is old traumas that we have that cause us to pick people that aren't good for us. Right? Whether I don't care, if we have family of origin trauma. Today I onboarded this beautiful woman to Smart Dating Academy. Our first session is 3 hours, and we have all that sort of dossier of paperwork. And her mother was a narcissist and grew up in the foster care system,
Mhm.
right? So you can understand that's a lot of trauma. So the way
Yes.
she mothered my client was not good or healthy. So when my client went she married her high school sweetheart
Mm,
while they were in their 20s. And he turned out to be borderline personality disorder and a narcissist,
right. She
cheated
married her
on her.
mom.
Right. And
Mhm.
so your picker, if you have picked chronically people that aren't right for you, it's okay. Nobody taught us how to do this.
Right.
And we can't pick our families of origin. And nobody has developed. I wish what we do was taught in high schools and college, right? But nobody taught you how to do it. So, first of all, be compassionate with yourself and don't say, I'm broken. It's the way I'm picking people isn't good for me. My picker is broken, but that doesn't mean you're broken. Just because you have a broken arm doesn't mean you're broken.
Mm. You have such a good heart. I love the way you look at everything, and it really must help everybody that you work with.
Oh, thank you. That was so sweet.
Yeah, well, it's
Appreciate that.
it makes sense that you wanna really, and you could feel it, you really want to help people find love. You've been married for how long?
It'll be 27 years in May.
Wow. Congratulations.
Right, we were like children.
And it goes
But
by so
thank you.
fast,
It
right?
goes by really fast. And listen, common folklore is true. The person that you marry or the lid to your pot's the most important decision you'll ever make. More important than work, more important than anything, because that I've got a poster in my office that's called the um, 21 suggestions for success in life. My dad used to have this hanging in our house. So I found it like vintage and bought it for myself. But the 21 rules for success. Rule number one, marry the right person. This one decision will determine 90% of your happiness or 90% of your misery, right? So you want to be really conscious in a world that tells us we can find love on TV and get married in one season.
Mm, right. I often talk about my divorce, And I talk about my divorce only in the sense that it was such a pivotal time for me because I, after 17 years, I decided that this person was not matching the way I wanted to grow. And it was a as big as the decision was to marry him, it was a bigger decision to divorce him. And that's why I refer to it so often because it just marks a time where I grew, you know,
Yeah.
because getting married, getting divorced, those are we hope that nobody gets divorced, but unfortunately it still happens. And, I didn't get married thinking, oh, I'm going to get divorced in 17 years, but you try to work through as much as you can. But they are big moments. And you're right. Like it does affect your happiness and your misery, it affects our well-being.
Yeah. I mean, I often wish if I ran the world, we would flip things around. There would be a longer process to getting married, right?
Mm,
But then divorcing the wrong person would be really easy. But
mm.
if we did the upfront work to
Yes.
make sure that we were marrying the right person,
Mhm.
right? We could minimize divorce. But then if you end up it doesn't work out for whatever reason
Right.
after 17 months or 17 years, that you can say without millions of dollars, let's agree to part ways. And you can do
Right.
that quickly. And it doesn't have all the collateral damage to kids, to family, and all of that. So that'd be my perfect world.
Right, right. Do you once somebody's dating and they get engaged with you there all along with them, do you suggest that they get a prenup? Because that was talked about with the Golden Bachelor. They did have a prenup. Uh, do you ever get into that with your clients
Yes, I tell everybody,
to get a prenup?
protect yourself.
Mhm.
Or I'll tell you what some of my clients are doing now
Mm.
is they're having commitment ceremonies instead of getting legally married. It's awesome. I mean,
Wow.
I've had a client in her 50s in Texas, a client in her 70s, both of whom have been on my podcast, on the Smart Dating Academy podcast. Our clients come back to tell their real life stories of what dating was like and how they found the lid to their pot. But both of these women have rings, right?
Commitment rings.
Looks like it's an engagement ring, but they're commitment rings. Then they don't have all of we need to get a prenup, we need to do this, we need to do that. Then it becomes just like a breakup.
Yes.
And you're not enmeshed and entangled.
And maybe it doesn't feel so heavy.
It doesn't feel so heavy and it doesn't feel so daunting to do again,
Right. Oh, I like
right?
that. I've never heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, that's
commitment
very
ceremonies
cool.
are amazing, right?
So tell me what is so special. I know we go into hibernation in the wintertime. Now it's the spring. It's beautiful outside right now. W- What is it? What's the best advice? What are the three top tips you could give people that are coming out of hibernation and are looking for someone in the spring, looking for love?
I would say get online in a smart way. Don't just look at your phone and find the three least janky photos of yourself. Actually, invest in yourself. You're worth it. Why do you think we've taken photos in house at Smart Dating Academy? I have clients flying in from Connecticut and New Jersey and Texas and California and France and Spain and Canada all the time to do photos at our studio because it's included in our process. You've got to look at, I'm putting people out there that look amazing in their photos, and we have a
Hmm.
zero Photoshop policy. So know that you want to look your very best. So don't, take photos of yourself with your sunglasses on that are 3 years old with your girls. Nobody needs to date your daughters. They want to date you, right?
Right.
So really zhuzhing yourself up and get new photos. That's what
Oh,
I would say is tip number one.
okay.
And
Tip
then
number two.
think about how you're meeting people in real life. How are
Mhm.
you coming to the world? Decide to do little things differently. Put your phone away when you're out in public. Start making conversation with strangers. If you start to see people across a room that are interesting, make extended eye contact. 3 seconds and a smile. Let's practice it right now. Ready? One, 2, 3. It's a long time,
It
but that
is.
gives somebody an invitation to come over and talk to you. Or you can go over and talk to them. Start looking for what's good in people, telling people what's good. You're putting more love into the world. So in real life, you don't just have to sit there on a dating app. Think about how you're presenting yourself and how are you being the kind of person you want to attract.
You are so right, because if you put your phone down and just look around, I remember when I was in Miami in February and I was at a coffee shop, I put my phone down. And I'm not like glued to my phone all the time. It's more for work. But I'm sure you're like me, you're on your phone often. And it's nice to take a break. And I remember looking around and just saying, oh, life is just so nice when you're not on your phone and you get to actually smell things around you, look at people and engage. And I find I get a lot of enjoyment around asking people about themselves because I am curious. And I feel like you're the same way. It just brings me a lot of joy to compliment somebody or have a lovely conversation about whatever it is, the coffee, the weather. It's
Yeah.
just hearing what people have to say. You learn more about yourself when you're asking people about themselves. How many times will you ask somebody about themselves and walk away and go, oh, I just learned something today? It happens to me almost all the time.
Oh, I love that. That's so great that you do that. And go on a phone diet, you guys. I know
Mhm.
you're on your phone a lot, probably. I'm on my phone a lot. But I'll tell you what, if I'm really honest with myself, I don't need to be on my phone
Right.
50% of the time that I am. So now I read a lot, and I've seen that when people have their phone on tables when they're out to dinner with somebody, when they're out to dinner in a group, they enjoy the dinner less.
Totally.
My husband and I were at a comedian show on Saturday night. Hilarious. This guy's name is Ronnie Chang. He was in Crazy Rich Asians. So funny. Sold out the Chicago theater. Love my husband. He had his watch, he had his phone on his lap.
Mm.
Okay, because guys don't have purses. I threw mine in my purse. I saw every 5 minutes he was checking his phone and like LinkedIn. I'm like, what the hell are you doing?
It's Saturday night.
It's Saturday night. We're
But
fifth row at this amazing show. And then when he would check his phone, I was like, oh, well, maybe Max, my son, is texting. Then what would I do? I looked at my watch because
oh,
I've got an Apple Watch. And do you know what?
mm,
And then after it took me about 30 minutes to go, oh my God, I'm being triggered by him on his phone. I took my watch and I threw it in my bag.
love
And you
it.
know what? I was super conscious for the rest of the show. Put your devices away unless you are an ER physician or you're a doctor on
You're on
call
call,
or
right?
you've got little kids at home with a sitter. We're not that important.
Hmm. I agree. I agree. I mean, I can't believe, my kids are in their 30s. So when we would go out, we would leave the name of the restaurant in case, God forbid, something happened to the girls. The babysitter needed to get in touch with us. That's how we communicated back then. Nobody was on their phone and we enjoyed the conversations. I'm not saying that there's anything bad with the phone, but I'm just saying that, you got to give yourself a break. All right. What's number 3 tip?
Oh my gosh, I built in so many tips in that. I would
I did.
say think about, we talked about my tips for online dating and a lot of them in tip number one. Number two, I talked about meeting people in real life with all
Right.
of those tips. So I think the third big tip I would give you is thinking about how you're going to get people in your network to set you up on dates.
Ooh, Bella, I love that one.
Okay. So think about your network strategically, not your best friend and your mom and your neighbor. Okay. I want you to really, like you were on job search, think about every person you know, period. Whether it's your neighbor's grandmother or the teacher at school, think about who the super connectors are out of that list of people. Who likes connecting people? Who knows a lot of people? And tell those people they're going to be on your dating board of directors.
I
And
this It's
that
great
means they
advice.
set you up on one date this year. Easy ask if they accept their role on your board of directors. Every board has a pay to play element. So all they have to
Yes.
do is get you a date. And what it does is it puts them in a responsible position in their own mind, because typically they're like, oh, yeah, you know what? You're so awesome. Let me think about who I'd set you up with. And then what do? We go back and we think about our own lives. But now, if you've given them a position on the board of directors and a task, especially if they're a people pleaser like me, they'll be like, oh, I'm on the board of directors. I got to find Jody a date this year, right? And I'm going to look around. I might see someone adorable at the DMV that's standing behind me in line who doesn't have a ring on. I'd be like, hey, I have this crazy question to ask you. Are you seeing anybody by chance?
Right.
Right?
You never know. You
never
never know. Put all those feelers out.
Yes.
Yes. And take a chance on you. And if you are having a hard time dating and navigating the online dating, get in touch with Smart Dating Academy. Tell us how we can reach you.
So go to our website, smartdatingacademy.com, and sign up on any form just to get our free newsletter. Please listen to the Smart Dating Academy podcast. There's over 150 episodes of amazing free information. And please, I'm trying to grow my Instagram following. Follow me on Instagram at Smart Dating Academy. That would be amazing.
And there we are asking, right? I asked at the beginning to please subscribe. You're asking to follow you on Instagram because we want to grow. The more we grow, the more we can help more people. And that's what we're here for.